flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would entertain a motion for the approval of the board minutes for the March the 17th, 2014 meeting as printed.
I'll move.
Second. Motion by Meering, seconded by Vedro. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion and minutes thus approved. Brings us to the portion of the agenda entitled correspondence. I have several pieces of correspondence to share with the board. The first of which, and 4 of them are in regards to the food service class. These are emails in support of the food service program, and in particular Ms. Gasser. The first is from Rachel Labitz, who is a chef at St. Mary's Hospital. The second is from Logan Melgosa, who is the Wisconsin FCCLA State President. Third is from Bailey Bearwolf, who lives in New York, a graduate of Baraboo. And also Karen Stone, whose son was a graduate of Baraboo. And again, that is in support of the food service program of Ms. Gasser's. And then I also have to introduce, and Doug, you can expand upon it if you want, presented to me for correspondence from Mr. Meering is a letter from State Representative Krug.
Yeah, that's regarding a bill that was through the legislature. Actually, I sent this quite a while ago in January. But it's an unfunded mandate adding a physical education requirement. And basically my statement was that we don't have the facilities or the funding to be able to support a program such as that. So, but he said that he's going to bring it up again. So even though the legislation session's over, good legislation, whether it's good or bad, can be brought back next time, so, in the future.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Meering. I was not made aware of any other board correspondence, administrative correspondence.
I'd like to highlight several pieces that were in the board packets. The first is a letter of support from the Department of Human Services from Director Orth for the school social worker that the board will be talking about tonight. We received an invite for registration for the Wisconsin ASCD Spring Symposium, and Baraboo is one of 4 districts who were asked to present at that conference. We have letters from the Wisconsin Reading Association for appreciation for the presentation done by Kelly Steiner and Jane McMahon at the State Reading Convention. UW-La Crosse has recognized ABE art teacher Sarah Higley as the recipient of the Early Career Education Award, so congratulations to her. And the National Association of Secondary School Principals acknowledged Dave Schwartz's attendance at the national conference.
Is that it? Any other administrative correspondence? Before we move on to public viewpoints, a couple things I just want to mention. First of all, this is the first opportunity the board has to meet before the public since the referendum of the 1st of April. So I would like to thank the community for their support and passage of that referendum. We have a lot of work to do, and we will be coming back to the community on a regular basis to let everybody know what progress we've made in moving forward with what we said we would do with that referendum money. And secondly, I'd like to congratulate the 3 board members who ran unopposed, but nonetheless were reelected to their board positions. Mr. Cummings, Mr. Meering, and Mr. Vedro. They will be officially sworn in again as board members at the last meeting in April. I know we have a lot of people here tonight in reference to the food service class and the food service discussion, and I think it's important to let you know that the board will have a lengthy discussion, I assume, after public viewpoints, but the way that the agenda is set up, we certainly want to hear from the public. We've already heard from the public in a number of emails, but I think it's critical to point out that there are aspects of what went into the recommendation and what the board needs to act and decide upon that necessarily hasn't been part of the community discussion. So we would certainly love to hear from you. We asked for a sign-up sheet. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 names. I'm just going to start at the top. Keep in mind if you come to the microphone that you are being recorded, but you are not being amplified. So please keep that in mind as you're speaking. So, and also due to the fact we've got a lengthy agenda and a number of people that are wanting to speak tonight, please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. But we don't want to discourage anybody from speaking. So I'd like to first call Julie Fleming.
Hi, I'm here to speak about the school social work position. And I'll quickly give you a little bit of background information about myself so you know what perspective I'm coming from. I retired in 2012 after 22 years in the position as a school social worker for the school district of Reedsburg. And prior to that, I also worked in social work for a number of years as a psychotherapist for Sauk County Department of Human Services, Tri-County Mental Health, Dean Medical Psychiatry Department. And I've also worked in residential treatment for adolescents as a school social worker and also as a bilingual rehabilitation counselor. I should also share that I am a citizen member of the Sauk County Human Services Board. However, I'm not here officially representing them. I'm just coming to speak as a citizen of the community. As you know, social workers work in a variety of settings, and in the school setting, they work as a team member along with a number of other disciplines, typically with the school psychologists, nurses, teachers, and administrative staff, and all staff actually. And within the district, the client of the social worker can be a student, it can be a parent, it can be the district as a whole, it can be the community calling in and asking for some type of assistance. And some examples of the common things that school social workers address in schools are barriers that are impeding a child's progress in academics. Essentially, that's your role. And the things that we commonly address are attendance, basic needs of food, clothing, shelter, and supplies, mental health concerns, substance abuse, health problems, child abuse and neglect, learning difficulties, school avoidance, severe and disruptive behavioral difficulties that occur both at school, home, and community, loss and bereavement issues related to divorce, illness, death, or incarceration of parents, and also relationship concerns that occur between peers that are disruptive at school, between the school and the parent, between the parent and teachers, and between staff amongst each other. The understanding of social work can be very limited for a lot of people. Oftentimes it's misrepresented in the media, and oftentimes depicted very simplistically, and when their problems are highly complex, and so people get a very small and narrow view of it. And sometimes people think that social workers are hired and employed to fix problems, and in other situations, parents may fear social workers because they think that they pose a threat to their family if child welfare issues come up. But in reality, as you know, people and families and systems are highly complex and varied, and the capacities of students and their families, as well as staff, varies according to their own unique natures, strengths, weaknesses, etc. A presenting problem to a social worker, such as disruptive behavior, is labeled very simply. However, the problems are highly varied and complex and unique to each student. And so it's the job of a professional social worker to begin when a presenting problem comes to their attention to have a professional assessment of the problem before they begin making recommendations and implementing interventions. A school social worker has to be licensed by the state. They have to have a master's degree in social work, and they have to be very well trained in child development, child welfare, mental and behavioral health, social and systems theory, community organization, and development. And lastly, to work most effectively on a team, they have to provide best practice by being aware of school and community resources, and as importantly, they need to be aware of the laws that govern the school and community resources and be able to interpret those laws both to their clients, to the school system, back and forth, because oftentimes many of the difficulties that arise in implementing interventions come from misunderstandings about what the capacity of the school is to be able to do, for example, in special education, what human services can do with regard to child welfare, and the like. So a social worker needs to be able to do that effectively. In addition, they have to maintain good working relationships with other resource providers and agencies. And lastly, they have to be able to identify service gaps in our community and be able to work to develop additional resources where they find that they're lacking when they're trying to implement an intervention to help students and families overcome issues impeding their educational progress. So I'm certain you're challenged with a lot of needs in a limited resources, and I don't begin to have an idea about the awareness of all the priorities and things that you have to consider and whether or not you're going to add this position. However, at some point, if you ever would like, I could certainly entertain also a scope and discussion with regard to the cost to savings ratio with regard to social work interventions in the school setting.
Could you help us all understand, are the needs for our students in terms of mental health issues rising, or are they decreasing from your professional experience?
They're rising.
Thank you.
And they're rising
And-
at a younger level.
Thank you. And at the support level of what social service agencies, governmental agencies, and schools are providing, are those increasing to meet the increasing need, or are they decreasing?
When you say the support level, do you mean the resources that are available?
Yes,
Or
hired positions, professionals to support the needs of a growing population of students who need these kinds of services the same way that we have rising needs of students to be fed, to be clothed, and my position is the school is the last place that is able to provide these services. And my point is, as the needs are growing greater, the support to the students who need them seem to be decreasing. Something's wrong with that equation.
Just interject for a second, if I may. I appreciate certainly you spending time with us tonight. I know that Mr. Vedro has a number of things he would like to raise in regards to that position. I would like to point out to the board that Public Viewpoints is not the segment to do that. We're here to listen. We're here to report back. We're not here to engage. That doesn't mean that the discussion that is going on isn't worthwhile, and I certainly appreciate your time for being here.
Yep. Okay, I just wanted to make a closing comment with regard to, just to give you some perspective relative to budgetary considerations. Reedsburg, as you know, School District of Reedsburg is very similar and comparable to Baraboo in terms of its rural nature, its demographic size, and so forth. And they've also had to deal with the same things that Baraboo has relative to what are we going to do when we have limited resources available. But I will note that nonetheless, they have maintained a school social work position now for over 45 years. When I was hired in the position that I retired from after 22 years, I was replacing a woman who had been in the position for 20 years. And they did replace my position right in the crux of, or when I left in 2012, which as you know was also a very critical budgetary time. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, as far as the sign-up sheet, and I will try to address the subject. I apologize for not mentioning what Ms. Fleming was going to discuss. We do have the subject matter that was on the sign-up sheet. Jeannie Marking, in regards to the food service program.
Thank you. My name is Jean Marking, and I am a retired family and consumer ed teacher who spent 40 years.
June, for the recording, if you,
Oh, okay.
there is a
I
microphone.
spent
I'm not
40
trying to.
years, I still don't take
I'm not
directions.
trying to tell you.
I've spent 40 years of my life in these hallowed halls, and the program here at the high school is extremely important to me. So I have a few comments I'd like to share with you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. And I'm calling you the jury because you make some very, very important decisions regarding our young people. As elected officials, you serve the needs of Baraboo students, and you have been entrusted with making the best decisions possible that will ensure the best opportunities for each child who enters this school system. You hold within your power decisions that affect our students and allow them to experience an education that will prepare them to lead productive and successful lives. I personally spent 40 years in teaching seeking to enhance the students that I was entrusted to, the potential possibilities of theirs, providing opportunities and teaching my students not only how to make a living, but how to make a life. Your recent decision to cancel a program such as the food service class that has provided life skills to so many is wrong. It is unreasonable, and I feel it's a disservice to this school and to our community. This class has provided over 30 years of experiences, positive work ethic opportunities, the meaning of responsibility, dedication, cooperation, and skills that are beneficial for life and gainful employment. Kate Gasser was honored as the #1 food service educator in the state of Wisconsin from our Baraboo schools. She has dedicated 36 years to a program that she loved and a program that her students have thrived in, as well as the support of Cisco Foods, which is important in the school system to have your businesses be a part of your educational program. In a community that has benefited not only from their annual senior citizens luncheon, their many hundreds of food products that they have sold in our community. Kate has provided a unique opportunity for the young people to develop not only their self-confidence and esteem. It is not prudent or wise or sensible for a program of this importance to be eliminated. Good programs inspire our students, build their self-confidence and ability to succeed in life. That's what education is all about. It is your duty to educate our students with meaningful programs like the food service and continue its existence and support those programs wholeheartedly. I thank you and I rest my case.
Thank you. Up next on the public viewpoint list, Shannon Bonilla speaking in regards to the food service program.
Hi, I'm Shannon Bonilla, class of '93. If I would have went first, you guys would have known that she was one of my great teachers here. She summed up just about everything I wanted to say and more. But I would like you to know, by taking Mrs. Gasser's class, I walked into a position a few years ago. I'm a food and beverage supervisor at Ho Chunk Casino. I was able to walk into a position where I could run 4 entities. I run a cafe, a sports bar, a buffet, and a fine dining restaurant. I walked in, they had issues. I was able to develop training for fine dining where no one else was able to develop any of that training. I'm the first one that has been able to start training for the entire facility at Ho Chunk in food and beverage. I work upstairs, downstairs. I train the supervisors. I actually train the executives as well at times. We see the students that come in and have had her class, and they work very well immediately. It really affects their lives. And I can tell you right now, talking to my director, who also is a student who took the class, with this on my application, it actually put me at the top of the list for that position. So this class is really, there's a great need for it in this community. Students who graduate from here and even leave the area and go on to college, one of the ways you work your way through college is food and beverage. A lot of us have done it. So I'm just asking, please, my daughter went through the class too. I know I'm getting a little flustered, but it's a very passionate part in my heart. It really has affected a lot of us in this community. So I'm asking, please, take it into consideration to keep this course. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, Joel Petty in regards to the school
Social
social
work position.
work position.
This is my second kick at the can, I guess, so I'm hoping to convince you once again. I'm Joel Petty. I'm a 31-year resident of City of Baraboo. I'm also president of the Baraboo Common Council. I'm a psychotherapist at Sauk County Department of Human Services, 35-year seasons WA football and basketball, if that makes any difference. Anyway, again, I'm here to support the proposal of the social work position. The following people in the community support this proposal. I contacted and discussed with them individually about this proposal. Kevin Calkins, Sauk County District Attorney. And you'll probably figure out why these people think the school social work position is a good idea. Deborah Rourke, State Public Defender Assistant, State of Wisconsin. Wayne Maffei, Attorney, Hastings Mercer and Maffei Law Firm. Wendy Klickel, Attorney and parent of 2 students here at Baraboo School District. Joseph Viney, Viney and Viney Law Firm. Sauk County Department of Human Services, Dr. Christopher Never, Staff Psychiatrist. As Dr. Ritzenthaler said, William Worth. Dan Bratzett have also sent a correspondence. Dr. Sharon Basil, Mental Health Recovery Programs Clinical Director. Tim Green, Juvenile Justice Supervisor. Hazel Coppernow, Child Protective Services Supervisor. Kathy Latch, Wisconsin Department of Corrections, Division of Probation and Parole, Sauk County Supervisor. Some of you may have heard of this guy. His name's Dave Ament. I don't know if you've heard of him. Former Pupil Services Director, Baraboo School District. Mary Bowers, Kids Ranch, Sauk County Giving Tree. Karen DeSanto, Executive Director, Boys and Girls Club, Baraboo. Tom Kolb, Human Services Financial Assistance Coordinator, St. Vincent de Paul Society. Cindy Bodendine, Director, Sauk County Public Health. Dana Secular, Director, Baraboo District Ambulance Service. Dave Dalkey, Village of West Baraboo President. Jessica Caney, Education Coordinator, Hope House. Sandy Anderson, CEO, St. Clair Hospital. Mayor Mike Palm, Joel Petty, Council President. Ed Geik, City Administrator. Mark Wright, City Attorney. Mark Schaaf, Chief of Police. And former Mayor Pat Liston. When I spoke to these people, some of them were actually surprised the school district doesn't even have a social work position. They actually thought that you folks have been dealing with it for years and you have a social work position. They were actually dumbfounded when I said the district's never had one. Again, very encouraging, very supportive. When I list this names of people, I'm going to keep it brief, I know I got 3 minutes. You can tell why they're vested in this proposal. You can tell what they do for their occupations, why they're invested, and they know how it serves to prevent and help the families in the community. Not only these people are established professionals, most of them have been like me. They've been here at least 31 years, if not longer, in this community. And they're a very active part of this community. So, if you don't have any questions, I'm going to sit down because you got a lot of folks to speak. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next up, Sue Strutz in regards to the food service program.
My name is Sue Strutz and I teach Family and Consumer Science at JYMS. This is my 17th year of teaching in the district. I come before you this evening saddened that our department opening, which was created by Kate Gasser's retirement, may not be filled for the 14-15 school year due to the budget deficit and or lack of qualified applicants. Our department learned of the possibility early last week. A few students began asking FCS teachers why they were being called into guidance to change their class selections for the upcoming school year. Upon further questioning of students, teachers found that students had been asked to go to guidance to possibly sign up for other classes in case that the class was not offered. On Monday afternoon, Mr. Bilston confirmed her worst fear, that our successful food service program operating out of the Civic Center for the past 30 years might not exist for the next school year. At our request, the 4 FCS teachers met with the superintendent, the curriculum director, and Mr. Bilston Thursday morning. We were told that the district is facing a budget deficit and the district is looking for ways to make up the deficit. One of the options being looked at is not filling positions being created by retirements. While I understand that the district cannot operate in a deficit, I believe that not filling Kate Gasser's position, even for 1 year, would be detrimental to our students in the Baraboo School District. Let me share a story about a young lady I get the privilege of seeing most days, as she is a co-op student in my classroom. Miss S has an interest in becoming a teacher, possibly even an FCS teacher someday. She has been in Mrs. Gasser's food service class this year and seems to really enjoy it. I often hear stories of what she is learning, what sale is going on, and what event the group is preparing for. She relays these stories not only to me, but to my students. 2 weeks ago, after Miss S competed in the state level FCCLA competition, I asked her to talk to my students about her experience. Wow, at a moment's notice, she showed my students pictures, described what they were seeing, and answered all the silly questions that middle schoolers can have. I could tell she was passionate about her work, knowledgeable, and took great pride in sharing her experiences. I was so proud of her that day. If it were not for these experiences, opportunities, and training that occurred in Mrs. Gasser's classes, Miss S would not have been prepared for such a competition, let alone having the confidence to address my classes. The skills that students develop through the food service program are different than skills learned in any other classroom, even other FCS classes. Tony Evers has said, career and technical education provides exceptional experiences for students through career pathways and strong business partnerships. Students gain the knowledge and skills today's employers demand of our high school graduates. In fact, CTE students have a higher graduation rate than their non-CTE peers, moving us closer to the goal of every child to graduate college and career ready. In addition, according to the 2010 CTERS data, nearly 40% of all special population students are non-CTE, improving their knowledge and technical skill attainment and increasing their success rate for the high school graduation. In their research, special populations included economically disadvantaged students, individuals with disabilities, students with limited English, and academically disadvantaged students. As the budget deficit is considered, please do not continue to consider dropping the food service program for even a year. We need to value the skills and opportunities students gain through the program, the community partnerships that have been built over the years, and the vocational interests of our students. Please do not sacrifice one program's documented successes for the creation of new positions like the academic skills teacher. We need to work collaboratively to come up with solutions to find the person for this position. It might require that we think outside the box. As a department, we have offered some creative solutions, and one of those being, I think that we need to repost the position and put it so that it signifies that we are looking for somebody with a food service background rather than just a general FCS background. A few questions I want you to consider is, what happens to the equipment put in storage for a year or two? What happens to the space at the Civic Center if we are not paying rent? Will there be a space to bring the program back in a year or two because we don't have any space here at the high school? Where did the students learn the skills necessary for careers in the food service industry? Thank you.
Next, Dawn Weaver in regards to the food service program.
Hi, my name is Dawn Lever, and I've been teaching in this school district for a little over 31 years. And we are aware that Kate Gasser has a unique program because it's housed at the Civic Center. However, her food service program, which is based on ProStart, is one of 75 in the state of Wisconsin and graduates numerous students that are prepared to work in the food service industry. For those of you that are unaware of ProStart, ProStart is a nationwide program for high school students that develops the best and the brightest talent into tomorrow's restaurants and food service industry leaders. From culinary techniques to management skills, ProStart's industry-driven curriculum provides real-world education and builds practical expertise for a foundation that lasts a lifetime. One of the benefits of going through this program is the ProStart materials. It's affiliated with Wisconsin's Restaurant Association. And through this association, students gain access to scholarships to continue their education and their degrees. Wisconsin ProStart reaches over 4,000 students, and it is in more than 75 schools. In addition to ProStart, our students also have the opportunity to earn ServSafe, which again provides them a quicker opportunity in our food and beverage industry. We also know that we all have graduated from college with a degree and no experience. Many of us start out with no experience and are so appreciative of administration, support to grow in our profession. We were told that there were 12 applicants for the job and some may not have the required licenses. However, we feel that the posting was not correct and given a little bit more time, we may receive that right person. What would be so wrong to have a young, enthusiastic college graduate to be allowed to grow and continue this program in our area? Why not? Why not continue this program and allow that young teacher full of energy to carry these new ideas forward? We have plenty of enrollment. Our numbers have not dropped. As a matter of fact, next year, Claire Lucas and myself will be on double overloads at our block scheduling here at the high school. Baraboo School District's core beliefs posted on our webpage is, we believe education is an investment in the future of our community and society. Education achievement is a collaborative process engaging students, teachers, administrators, parents, and the community. We believe every student is entitled to an education that is responsive to his or her unique needs. Please consider continuing this unique class to invest in our future students in our community.
Thank you. Up next, and I'm not sure if I'm getting the first one right, is either Daryl or Dale Koloff, in regards to the budget.
Yes, my name is Daryl Koloff. The reason I'm here tonight is because a few days ago I read in the Baraboo paper that an unexpected budget deficit occurred. And so I just came tonight, really not so much with a viewpoint, as to get a better understanding and appreciation of the financial controls and procedures that you have in place so that these type of unexpected budgets won't happen in the future, and the disruption that I'm now hearing about, you know, in terms of programs and such, might be avoided. So, don't really have a viewpoint, but that's why I came.
Kate Gasser, in regards to the food service program.
I caused this whole problem by deciding to retire. Okay. So the mission statement of the Baraboo Schools is dedicated to being the best educational community by supporting the maximum growth of each student, enabling each student to succeed in and to contribute positively to a continuously evolving world. This Food Service Capstone program has done just that. It has provided invaluable job market skills and realistic, hands-on opportunities that have allowed numerous successes for past graduates. I'm aware that letters sent recently by previous students and parents have supported this statement. Over the years, cooperation has been something that I've tried to instill in all of my classes and all of my students. And this is a great opportunity to work together and continue to offer this class to future students. In reviewing past records, the following monies have been awarded over the years. 37 $500 scholarships that were provided by Baraboo Cisco Food Services since 1987. That's a total of $18,500. 16 between $1,200 and $2,500 scholarships over the past 36 years, which is approximately $29,600 from the Wisconsin Restaurant Association Educational Foundation. More recently, they have started giving out more scholarships to ProStart programs. Numerous other scholarship monies between the amount of $1,500 and $2,000 per student have been awarded to many graduates from specific institutions based on their involvement in class activities and competitions that they were involved in throughout the course of the year. We have built 100+ strong relationships with businesses in and around the Baraboo area. Portage, Reedsburg, Dells, Baraboo, contacts that I had from back when it was a vocational center. We had students bussed in from 5 schools. And through our various catering functions and fundraising activities, the support from local industry over the years has been phenomenal. It's allowed students to opportunity to develop strong work ethic, self-confidence, hospitality, as well as business skills, perseverance, and well as numerous culinary skills. This food service program was a component of a pilot project for the first ProStart materials that were introduced in Wisconsin in 1998. I'm offering my time as a volunteer to mentor a new teacher, provide my assistance in any way necessary in order to keep the class alive for the Baraboo School District. Thank you.
you. Rose Lee, in regards to the food service program.
I too have been a part of the Baraboo School District. I worked as a middle school teacher for 6 years and as a high school counselor here at Baraboo High for 22 years. I strongly support the food service program. It's the only vocational program I can think of in this school district where a student is able to walk across the stage on graduation night, walk out the door, and get a job in the area and stay locally if he or she chooses. It also provides a direct link through Cisco, a direct cooperation between a school district and a local business, and we need all of those we can get. Jack Young, after whom the current middle school is named, was the principal here when I was here. Worked with him for all of his years as a principal at Baraboo High School. He and I often had conversations, I as a counselor, he as the principal, regarding what would be best for students, or if a student had a unique need, what's the best thing we could do for them. Jack always had 2 questions at the end of every conversation. The first question was, what is best for the student? And the second question was, will it hold up in court? And that's what everything boiled down to. What's best for the student? Pat Brophy, retired high school counselor, taught in the district, was a counselor for many, many years. He always said, if it weren't for the students, no one in this school district would have a job. Not the administrators, not the teachers, not maintenance, not even the bus drivers. Nobody would have a job. Therefore, I'm going to bring you back to Jack Young and say, will you please ask yourself what's best for the students? And the best thing you can do for our students is provide a vocational training that will get them a job right out of high school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, and I'm hoping to get the first name right, Dells O'Rourke, in regards to the food service program.
My name is Deb O'Rourke. I am here to express to you support for the food service program from myself, my family. My son Daniel went through the food service program. My youngest, Patty, hopes to go through the food service program. I don't have prepared comments, so I hope I'm not sounding too disjointed, but I think as a school district, we are here to educate everyone. And that means not just the students who go through the traditional programs, the reading, writing. We need to educate the students who aren't necessarily college bound. This program has been of immense benefit to the entire community, but it's also just given my son and a number of students the confidence they need to go out in the world and get a job. It has given them skills. He went to competitions, won a scholarship. He has sailed through his employment where he works at High Rock as a chef right now. And I think the food service program has given him those skills. The school is not here just to educate those who are college bound, and that, I guess, is the most important thing I want you to take into consideration before you decide to get rid of a program that is so wonderful to so many. And so you please take that and think very hard about that before you get rid of a program that has been so special. And I thank Mrs. Gasser for everything she has done. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Bill Shuey, in regards to the food service program.
Good evening. My name is Bill Schlewy. I've been a teacher here for 11 years. I haven't, I guess, been directly associated with Kate in any way, except for the fact of, as a colleague, and watching her develop amazing positive relationships with the students who walk through her doors. And I think that a lot of what I have to say here is going to kind of roll over into another piece, and that is the idea that we always look for ways to make positives in the community, and Kate, your program does that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And 35 years of hard work to walk out the door and look back and not see the program that you help establish is probably a hard pill to swallow for her. I don't claim to understand budgetary items. Okay, I'm lucky my checkbook is balanced. Okay, for the most part. But what I do understand is people. I'm in the people business. I'm not in the numbers business. I'm not in the numbers business at all. And I know that in the people business, trust is necessary. And not only this, but as you evaluate resignations that come across your desk tonight, and you evaluate programs that either exist or don't exist after tonight, I want you to understand the 7 of you who we all work for. Okay, from the top to the bottom, we do. We vote for you. You make the decisions that affect us on a daily basis. And that goes for everyone who gets a paycheck from this district. You have to take into account the idea of what does this trust do for people? Can we trust that the next program isn't going to be one of our own? Can we trust that things that we care about or people we care about are going to be there the next day? Are they going to get their fair day in court? Okay, are they going to get the opportunity to share really what is happening to them with all of you, with no filter, without fear? And I hope that you understand that tonight with those actions that you take, not only with food service, but resignations and other actions you have to view. What does it say about the trust between us and everyone else involved? So I hope that in the spirit of collaboration, which is what we all are instructed to work with, is that you too understand that the collaboration goes with you as well. I know that for many of us, it's hard to stand up when you don't feel comfortable with something that is going on. And I hope that me standing up says something. It says something that another teacher who, I don't think outside of staff meetings or maybe teacher, interaction, Kate and I have talked a lot. I don't think so. But I do know when I see someone who offers something good to this school, and I see people leaving who are good for the school and programs not existing, things that are good for students of Baraboo schools. And I hope you take that into account this evening with not only food service, but with other actions that you are faced with this evening. I ask you just to ask questions. Ask the question, why is this in front of us? Ask the question, is there another answer? Is there a better answer? What is the evidence to make this what it needs? Why am I presented with this? And ask for real evidence. Ask tough questions. I beg that of you, because sometimes the tough questions are going to get you the right answers. Thank you.
Next, Brendan Trell, in regards to food service.
Hello, I'm Brendan Cottrell. Wasn't able to print off the paper I'm reading. It is from a former student of Ms. Casser's, Benjamin Stone. My name is Benjamin Stone, and I currently attend the Culinary Institute of America. I'd recently heard that the food service class of Baraboo School District is going to be cut. And as a proud alumni of the class, I feel that I need to put my 2 cents on a huge mistake that could possibly happen. I took the food service class under the instruction of Ms. Gasser in the 2012-2013 class year. To be 100% honest, I am all of my success due to this one very important course. Over the course of 9 months, I learned skills, knowledge, and principles that are heavily focused on at the top culinary school in the nation, and noted to be the best culinary school in the world by legendary chef Paul Pukas. This course properly gives a substantial setup to attending a successful culinary school. There is so much more in the world than the unusual job skills taught in public schools. To the people who want a job in the trades, classes like food service are a necessity. There are welding classes for students that want a career in welding. There are automotive classes for those who want a career working with cars. So why can't there be a class for those who want a career in the ever-growing culinary field? The other culinary courses offered, such as fun with food don't compare to what this food service course has to offer. Students learn about costing, food safety, history, recipes, as well as the much needed hands-on experience needed in order to be successful. The food sales that take place over the course of the year are extremely helpful in the theory of banquet/catering events in which mass production is a must. Not only did I learn those mandatory lessons, food service has FCCLA, as well as ProStart for those that are die-hard culinarians and bakers. FCCLA taught about teamwork and how to work with others that you have never met, which is essential to the working world. More importantly, it is a humbling experience. I had lost at the state competition and was aggravated to the point that I couldn't comprehend how I lost, and that I blamed everyone but me. The next day I realized that I can't come close to winning everything, and that no one gets far with a larger-than-life ego, which I feel is an experience everyone must know. I learned this because of a program running with food service. Later in the year, the ProStart competition came around. ProStart is the most difficult competition I've ever partaken in. I learned how to write up a menu, plan ahead in regards to cooking, and how to present a plate with a style. Now, we didn't win, but I got this much better than a medal. I got a job offer at the Kalahari Resort and Convention Center. The experience I earned from this job line of cooking and eventually helping run the breakfast morning buffets is detrimental to my success so far. Out here in Hyde Park, New York, I have had the opportunity to talk to a large amount of students about their past experiences. All of the students successful here started with a food service program such as this one. If school districts cut their food service programs, the amount of successful students out here would plummet. When I think of schools, I think that they are meant to open our eyes to the possibility of the world and set you up for success as much as possible. Taking away this program is the equivalent to taking your future successful culinarians and bakers, and not going to read that part. Schools aren't meant to do that. Imagine that your own child is coming up to their senior year and they plan for their future to be the best chef he or she could be. Would you prefer to tell them that there was an exemplary food service program but is now non-existent? I implore you to keep this program alive and keep sending students to be great chefs in an ever-growing culinary world that is becoming more and more important every day. I wish I could have been here to tell you this in person. I am currently living in New York, my dream attending the world's premier college thanks to Ms. Gasser and this extraordinary program. Without food service programs throughout the nation, there would not be as many fantastic chefs as there are now. Thank you for your time, and I hope this was beneficial. Sincerely, Benjamin Stone.
Brent Gasser in regards to the food service program.
Thank you, members of the school board, for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm here on behalf of my wife, Kate, of course, and my daughter, Natalie, who's in the back of the room. Natalie happens to attend the class this year, as well as our 4 children previously. We're residents of the Wisconsin Dells, and we chose 25 years ago to move our children to Baraboo School Choice because of the high academic standards you have created here in this district. We continue to believe that. We also continue to believe you make the great decisions for the students of ours. As I look around this room, I see Sable in the back, who's with us at ProStart and FCCLA. I see Brendan in the back. Yes. Morgan. Austin. Natalie. All students of Kate's that chose to come here, take their time to support her, and many, many hundreds of others that benefit from this program. This program is not Kate, even though she's created the program. This program can be continued. You can find the budget funding for it. I've served on many boards, such as the marketing board of the Dells, $12 million budget. We move money around all the time. I'm sure this can be done with creative accounting and good reason. So I would appreciate if you'd look at it more seriously, take the time, not tonight, table it, but look at the decision more thoroughly when you have all the answers. Thank you for your time.
Austin Beach, in regards to the food service program.
Hello, I'm Austin, and I'm currently enrolled in Mrs. Gasser's food service class this year. And I don't think it should be called food service, really. I think it should be called life skills, because that's what it really comes down to. You're learning life skills like, discipline, you're learning respect, you're learning just a bunch of other great things. You have like counting, you have to learn in there. You know, it opens the doors to college kids. I think they had 3 kids go to college last year for food service. And you don't know if they would have gone to college for food service last year, you know. Opens a door for them, and it opens up scholarships for them. I think we had a kid get like $500 or $1,000 scholarship this year at FCCLA State, and it's $500 or $1,000 the kid now has that he wasn't going to have. You know, we always talk about our kids having opportunities that we want. And, you know, if you want to give these kids opportunities, you got to keep this program up, because kids aren't, there's always going to be an industry out there for food service. Like, no matter what, people are going to want food because that's what you live off. So, you know, so I just ask that you guys, you know, you don't shut this door, because if you shut the door on the program, you might shut down the door for kids' opportunity in life. Thank you.
Anthony Gasser, food service.
Hi, I'm here representing Michael Alphin, and then afterwards I'd also like to make a few comments about my own. So, okay, to whom it may concern, my name is Michael Alphin. I own and operate Elite Catering and Bakery here in Baraboo. I have worked with Kate Gasser and her staff in numerous capacities, including providing several culinary items for her fundraising efforts, culinary and pastry judging for FCCLA, in-class demonstrations, have worked with Lynn Crew through the Baraboo Optimists. I have also employed students from her program in years past with regards to our bakery operations and our catering business. Over the past 3 years, I have worked with Jane Hemming with the Pro Start program in Portage and have raised a great deal of money to support her program as well. As a business person who is not in the academic field or involved with the sports programs on any capacity, I have to ask this board what is the reason this program is being terminated. Not every student will be an educator, and not every student will become the next Michael Jordan. The food programs provided by our tax dollars are possibly the only option or out that some children have to better their futures. The culinary and hospitality industry is the second leading employer in our nation next to government employees. If the students learn basic culinary skills, they can be employed anywhere globally. Food science is an art that infuses mathematics and sciences in numerous capacities to solidify these skills set in their professional and personal lives. Who's going to earn the money, the tax money, to pay for government employees such as yourselves? I find it ridiculous as a taxpayer, as an independent businessman, owner and operator who has to hire and train these young people, that these programs not only are on the chopping block, such as what has happened in Reedsburg and elsewhere in our state, but that they have to solicit funds and conduct fundraising in order to maintain their programs. Does the math department or the English department or any other academic department have to conduct fundraising? And if so, then shame on the administration. Maybe it needs to be looked at continued advantages they have for maintaining their positions and give prayerful considerations to maybe passing on a pay increase or the next great benefit package, and start to focus on the reasons you're all here in the first place, our children. Our district operates with high payroll and high benefits at the cost of the taxpayers, the expense of the students' futures. There is no business in existence that can operate and maintain operations with the amount of poor fiscal responsibility that this district and most within the nation demonstrate with regards to entitlement and self-preservation at all expenses. I will support the children, the programs that assist the children, and to say the least, the Baraboo School District does not impress. I pray you can reconsider your stance regarding the Foods and Consumer Science Department at Baraboo High School. Please feel free to contact me if you wish for further clarification. Thank you, Michael Alfin. And then I'm Natalie Gesser. I'm Kate Gesser's daughter, obviously. And I just wanted to say I've seen over the years how much her students are impacted by this program and the community with the continuous fundraisers and things that we learn in class that don't only involve skills that will help us in cooking, but in our lives. Because of this class, I have the background knowledge, even though I don't want to go into cooking myself, to go out and get a part-time job that can help me earn money for college. Anywhere I want. There's tons of options in the Dells for different places that you can go and cook, or go to a restaurant and bus and stuff like that. And we don't only learn stuff in our class that has to do with like cooking, but stuff like work simplification, like how we can do our job faster and easier, and like just like all these different skills that can just help us in our jobs, which is the most important thing. We're here to get an education so we can go out and get a job. And it also gives kids, obviously, the opportunity who do want to go into the foods. And here at the high school, we have math and science programs and stuff. And that's really great, because some kids are really interested in that. But I think some other kids are also really interested in developing skills that are in the arts, and that like work the other side of their brain that isn't the right side of their brain, that works on creativity and building things. Because when you cook, you build materials, and I don't know, I just think it's a beautiful thing. So thanks for listening. Have a great day.
I'd like to take an opportunity to thank all of those that were here for Public Viewpoint, whatever the topic was that you were here to discuss or support. Everybody I know has a busy life and busy lifestyle, and I understand and realize, and I'm sure the rest of the board does, that you're passionate about what you were speaking of tonight, and it doesn't go unnoticed that you took time out of your night to come and talk about it. So thank you for sharing your viewpoints with us tonight. And again, a reminder, as part of the budget recommendation discussion, the board will have further discussions in regards to the topic that you guys have brought forth tonight. That having been said, brings us to the portion of the agenda entitled Staff and Student Recognition. And we have with us Greg Manson, the FBLA advisor, and some students to report on the state convention, which would be the FBLA state convention.
Can you stand in front of the microphone?
Absolutely.
Awesome. We were starting to worry that we got forgotten about, so.
Thanks for hanging in there.
Good. Well, I brought a sheet, but I'm going to try and do this in a minute. So, I'm Greg Manson. I'm the FBLA advisor. It stands for Future Business Leaders America. It's a club offered here at the high school. Gives kids a chance to learn and practice and prepare for real business world concepts. The club was started originally by Mr. Carpenter, the former business teacher. He taught here his entire career, and when he retired, he left it off to me. We went off to state this year. We sent 12 kids, and of those 12 kids, we had 3 place. There was Pat Rowe, Hermes Duran, and Matt DeCraft. And guys, would you just mind telling me what your events were?
Me and Patrick Rowe and I did the event called marketing, and we first day we took a test together, and it was I'm not sure how many people participated in the test, but we scored in the top 6% or top 6 placers to make it to the second day. And then on the second day we were presented with a situation where we had to implement a commission strategy on at a clothing store on how to implement commissions while the workers approach the consumers. And so we had 20 minutes to do that, and I think we were the first people to go. I believe we did really good. We ended up placing 6th place, not quite what we wanted to get, but 6th place out of the state is always still a really good achievement.
Huge accomplishment. I was never so proud of my life. So. Mr. Carpenter, it took his entire teaching career to get one student to become a national champion from Baraboo. So when these guys got up there and they got 6th place, I was like, wow, I almost got that done my first year.
Not done yet.
And Matt, he participated in business calculations, which is probably the most difficult event a person can participate in. Requires super math skills. So, walking calculator. Awesome. Would you mind telling them just a little bit of what involves with this and calculations? What are they looking for?
There's a lot of just mathematics terminology that you need to know when you're going into it. And a lot of the questions deal with interest on loans and things and all that, yeah, and like taxes and yeah, like that.
Great. Matt got 13th out of the state, which is also a huge accomplishment to be recognized on that level. Some other stuff that FBLA does is really involved in the community as much as we possibly can. This past year we raised 200 pounds of food, $500 for the Baraboo Food Pantry for Thanksgiving. Last Saturday we helped out with Habitat for Humanity's e-cycle event where people brought in their used TV sets and computers and had them recycled. So we collected 4 tons of used TVs and computers. It was quite the sight, especially in the rain. Really proud of these guys. They're really involved. You know, they're leaders. Everything that they do, people look up to them. So everything they do is really impressive. So thank you.
You were all juniors, seniors?
I was senior.
And we're sophomores.
So you guys are going to get better next year.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Yeah, why not?
Well, on behalf of the Baraboo School Board and the district, I'd like to present you with the Honors for Excellence medallions for your participation in your stellar performance. I think 6 is great, and we're very proud of the way that you represented the Baraboo School District. And one short tonight, so I'll get the extra one to Mr. Manson and he'll forward that to you, but congratulations. Congratulations. And we'll get yours. Congratulations. And Greg, thank you for carrying the torch. And I know my own son participated in the FBLA competitions, and it's what helped him move forward in his career as well. So again, thank you for your leadership in the district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Now to the portion of the agenda entitled Reports, the first of which is the referendum update, and for that I'm going to turn to Dr. Ritzkaller.
Well, we recently had a phone conference with CGS and EUA, and we have a kickoff meeting with Dan O'Brien, Martha, and myself in Madison on April 21st. We'll be looking at taking the general timeline that they had introduced earlier with more specific dates and items listed on that. We'll be talking about responsibilities and roles of all the parties involved and expectations. And the representatives and consultants will be coming back periodically to the board meetings to report out on the progress and also to address any questions that board members may have. So very brief update. Again, I want to thank people who got out to vote to support the referendum. And I also want to clarify, because I've heard several times in the community from members that they're not clear why we need to look at budget reductions or cuts or reallocations. The referendum was very specifically earmarked and approved by the voters for maintenance, repairs, and projects in security, nothing else. So it doesn't help offset the deficit. And when we get into the budget, we'll provide a little bit more background from January to where we are right now and what we've done to address some of those deficit issues.
Crystal, at what point will we find out what our interest rate will be on that amount?
Do you want to address that, Martha?
Sure. Oh, we just had a phone conversation with Mike Clark from Baird and started going over the timeline for that as well. And we should know in early June what interest rate we will be getting on that.
As interest rates go, it's probably not going to be a lot. I think they had estimated probably 20,000. Is that what they said?
For
the
the interest rate was, I think 4.5.
Yeah, that was
right.
Right.
Yep.
And are we still in that neighborhood?
He was conservative with his estimate, because it would be nice to come in lower than that, so I would think we'll still be within there.
Martha, did you want to add anything about the referendum?
No, I think that kickoff meeting will kind of lay out the plan for what everyone needs to start doing over the next few months.
I guess to add a couple of points of, we've got a 20-year bond that needs to be issued, and the idea is to issue that as quick as possible given the favorable interest rate markets. Generally, our projects aren't going to be kicking off for a good 9 months to a year. Between the planning process and the implementation timetable of when you want to do it, especially during the summers, there's no way we're going to get anything major going this summer. That being said, I think it's advantageous to take, Mike agreed, or Mike told us to take advantage of the timing of the marketplace right now. Get your interest rate locked in, because the next 20 years, this is probably going to be the best interest rate you're going to see for quite a while. The $20,000 that Crystal mentioned is interest earnings that we'll probably see on those investments over time. And how do you maximize those dollars? We spent a lot of time talking about those dollars and how they get segregated, how it's the availability of the funds is your top priority, so you've got the availability to spend them when you need them, the safety of those funds to make sure that it is secure and protected investments, and then the interest rate comes last. Obviously, you don't want to chase the best interest rate and not be well protected. So those are the things that we're going to be taking a look at and talking to the board about. But you'll see us talking a lot about money in about 6 to 8 weeks.
You won't take all those bonds early then, will you? Don't we have 3 years to spend that money? Is that true?
Well, you issue the bonds, and you have to go to marketplace with the bonds. And the reason why there's a 6 to 8 week lag between today and when the money comes is because there's an underwriting process. And that underwriting process is what guarantees the information for the people that buy the bonds. It guarantees our fiscal position. It guarantees that they know who we are and what we're doing with the money and how we're going to spend it, so they feel comfortable giving us the best rate possible. So we do everything we can in the next 8 weeks to lower the risk for anybody that wants to buy our bonds. And that includes bond writing counsel, that includes disclosure counsel, and these are people that you'll learn about coming up. Essentially, it's more assurances for underwriters to give us the best rates. And we're going to get the money, and we're going to get it all up front. And yeah, we've got 3 years to spend it, which is good, because it takes us a while to plan these projects and get them done. But the idea is you go out to market and you get all the money at once. So then what do you do with the money? Then you've got to manage that money until it's spent. And how we manage that money we'll also be talking about.
Okay. If there's nothing else in regards to the referendum update, I'd like to move on to item B, 2014-2015 budget recommendations.
This is a process that, as you know, starts late fall, December, and Martha came to the board on January 27th with a projected budget deficit, not only for looking at the end of this year, but also next year with expenses and revenue. And as we've talked about before, special ed costs are increasing. We take students who come into the district at all times of the year, and we have several really high-cost programs that we right now contract through CESA 5. So that's where we primarily ended up with a $341,000 deficit going into next year. Over the course of January through even today, we're continually looking at every area in the district for efficiency and cost savings. So we're going to go through that list tonight. Our original budget had no salary or wage increases for any staff within the budget. We felt that was very important to at least put in the CPI 1.46. And so we did that. We have a teacher compensation committee working very hard. We've formed the committee in December, and we're also looking at a process for supplemental pay. This budget and the current $50,000 deficit does not include supplemental compensation for teachers. So we're still looking for potential areas that we can reallocate because we're short about $100,000 for that system. We do have potential grants that are pending. I think we have 3 out there right now, so there is the potential of revenue for the district, which might help put money back into Fund 10, our operational budget. But I think the timelines for those are into summer, I think even August. So those are dollars that we can't count on yet.
They are not listed in the document.
No, if you see at the bottom of the budget document in red, it says potential pending grants revenue. We did not put any amounts in there at this point.
Do we have an estimate?
We have 2 CTEs, I believe, and an early childhood. And how much was the early childhood?
30,000.
30,000, and
We
the
have-
other 2 grants?
We have 2 financial literacy grants, one for 10,000, one for 20,000. The Read to Lead, which was 30,000, and we're working with Teal and Flambeau on a Wisconsin Fast Forward Initiative grant, which we're not sure how much we're going to ask yet.
Okay, so those are all pending, but we have been working to complete those applications. Some of the timelines from DPI do not give us very much notice to work on those, but staff have been great. Teachers have been working with administrators and business partners. And Chris took on the other big grant with some community partners as well. So we'll report back to the board as soon as we know anything on the possibilities of those grants.
Okay.
So you can see that this process is not an easy one. It is about prioritizing needs for kids in the district, and it is about making hard decisions. I mean, the reality is we have to, but we can't go into next year without a balanced budget. And that means that if our revenue doesn't increase, then we have to look at our expenses. So we're going to go through those line by line. Some of them the board has already acted on, so we'll move kind of quickly through the list. But even today, we're still looking at some options, and that's an ongoing process for us. So I think we'll just start at the top of the list.
Crystal, just a
Okay.
question. I just want to make sure that the gentleman, was it Mr. Feld? I'm sorry, sir, I forget your name.
Me?
Yes.
Daryl Kohlhoff.
Mr. Kohlhoff, you raised the question about these budget challenges.
Yeah, I was
and
curious
I
why
just-
it was such a surprise that the kind of procedures would have been in place, that this could have been caught earlier, it might have been more manageable.
Well, I just wanted you to hear that 341,000 of that unanticipated expense came from needing to support special education issues that we could not foresee. So I just want you to have part of that in place, that we don't have, more often than not, we don't have a choice.
Well, I wasn't saying that at all.
Okay,
I understand.
Let's start
we got
with
a point of order, I'm
Danny.
sorry.
Yeah, let's start with Danny with, we have on the agenda tonight 2 items to approve school psychologists for vacancies, and Danny did send out some further information to the board today.
So the first line item in your budget document is replacing the school psychologist position that has remained vacant for this school year. We did fill that with an interim special education support system, and so that position would be eliminated in lieu of hiring, getting back to full FTE for our school psychologist. Any questions on that?
Just clarification for the board, it's line item 5 in our sheet.
Yes.
It's budget item 1, but it's line item 5.
Do you want to go on? I think we'll just go down the list. The reading specialist, because the North Freedom Special Ed program is being eliminated due to low enrollment there, Michelle Tiber has requested a transfer into that role. She is certified and she does provide that type of instruction, direct instruction as a special ed teacher, and she'll be working as an interventionist in that role at 2 schools. Lori, did you want to say anything else about that?
I just add that that's funded by federal Title I dollars, and that's the intent of those dollars.
And there's a need to increase that, to double
Yes,
it.
yep.
Okay.
We're seeing that our early intervention efforts are working, and we did operate this year with a 0.5 vacancy. So we feel we need a full-time position at this point to continue with our needs with early intervention.
Okay.
Glenn, the high school?
What light item?
I can talk about that, the high school math coach. Currently in the district, we have K-8 coaches for math. And at the time that that position or role came into the district, we never had one at the high school level. And our coach team really feels that that's an essential piece, is to have consistency in K-12 support across. So we would like to just reallocate $1,500 from our professional development budget to support that role. And we have an interested person at the high school to support that role as well. So it's a stipend for a teacher.
But it's a different role than the K-8 role because of the high school and how they're structured, correct?
So we have a job description for our math coaches, and our math coaches really primarily guarantee consistencies in our curriculum instruction.
Is there a different one for the high school math coach versus the other one?
We have, no.
Okay.
It's the same job description, but we haven't had a math coach at the high school.
Okay.
And we're also asking to add a PBIS coach here at the high school, similar to what we did at the middle school this past year. So they have 3 coaches considering the size of the building. And so next year we would have a 3rd coach here at the high school as well to support our PBIS efforts. And then line item number 9, we brought forward a course proposal back in October for a high school academic seminar so that we could have transition for our high school students, our freshmen coming into high school, provide them targeted support. We've identified those students, and now we've gone through the process of interviewing, and we're recommending a teacher from the middle school, Kristen Moshik, will be stepping into that position, who has special ed teaching experience, coaching experience, serving as an internal and external PBIS coach. Also certified secondary in English, so she'll bring a lot of experience to being able to work with these students, these at-risk students, to provide them support and a positive start in high school.
Well, now, this is a new position. You have all the job duties and all that made out already?
Yes.
The board previously approved the academic seminar offering at an earlier board meeting, so now we'll be posting the special ed position due to the vacancy at the middle school.
Do we have the enrollment numbers for that yet?
About 75 students.
Okay. So it's a full-time position?
Yeah.
And you said these are targeted students?
Targeted students.
Yep.
We've already met with middle school, and they're all identified, and communication's gone out to their families, and they've been put into the schedule.
Okay.
Molly has been working with the elementary principals and looking at enrollment numbers, and it appears that we are going to have, as we always do, some bubbles, and we've got a couple of lower class sizes in kindergarten and first grade. So through attrition, we've identified 2 positions that we would like to eliminate there, and that's a savings of $100,000. We're still waiting because, as you know, we're just getting in the time of the year where we will have more resignations due to teachers moving to other districts or out of state. So no decisions on those at this time. We'll continue to just monitor the student or the teachers that are resigning. Want to talk about tech ed a little bit?
Sure. So we're on line item number 11, the engineering course, startup equipment. That's the Foundations of Engineering course that we approved earlier this school year as a new course here at the high school. And so with that course approval process, we included the cost of $20,000 at that time. And that is just a reallocation within the curriculum budget, also supported with Carl Perkins funding. And we just submitted our plan for Carl Perkins, so just to make sure that everyone understands too that Carl Perkins is supporting all of our career and tech ed areas. And again, we're working with Teal and Flambeau as business partners to see if there are some donations that they can work on with us with some of the equipment, and working on that Wisconsin Fast Forward Initiative grant.
The Odyssey Wear is a smaller line item, but it will be supported through eliminating the e-pass cost that will now be paid for by the state. We funded this previously with a Title IX, Title VII Native American grant, and we're no longer participating in that process, but we want to continue support for those students. So again, it's a smaller cost, but it shows you that we're looking at all of those areas. Extended days, Lori?
Sure, so line item 14, we have 5 days for a ELL staff member and 3 for a school psych for summer work. With the ELL position, I'll let Danny talk about the psych position. That would be comparable with what our other ELL teachers receive, and that was an oversight on our part when we hired our most recent bilingual teacher. And so we would like to make her comparable with the others, and that work is to support data analysis over the summer, working with families, registration, providing translation and interpretation services, and it's a need.
And for the school psych, it would be again helping transition those new students with disabilities into our district, ensuring we get all the paperwork from their previous districts and just make that transition as smooth as possible. And that's in line with what our current school psychs work over the summer as well.
Lines 16 and 17 are really more of an accounting to meet the needs there. Moving part of the food service director's salary to Fund 50, and addressing our server upgrade potentially with security portion of the referendum. Larger item on line 18, we've addressed with the board, and I'll have Lori talk about that $30,000 reduction to professional development.
Sure, so last time I spoke to the board about professional development, we alluded to 20,000. We've increased that reduction now to 30,000. And that's based on savings and substitute costs by having less internal meetings during the school day, and by reducing the amount of staff that are attending out of the district workshops or registrations. And we think that we can do that because we've spent a considerable amount of resource supporting our staff, building capacity, and also we have similar concerns that Ed has brought to our attention about the number of days that some of our staff members who are in dual roles in our district, like instructional coaches who serve as full-time teachers but have also taken on another role in the district. We want to make sure that they are in their classrooms as much as possible. We have to find that balance, and so we're going to streamline the process for how teachers' leave requests are approved. And Ellen is working with me to create a database to track that, so that as we are approving each leave request, we can guarantee that and make a commitment to you as the board that we're trying to keep our teachers in the classroom as much as possible.
I think also you indicated, Lori, that some of the structures would be changed, so some of the groups would be meeting after school.
Correct. Yep.
I'm going to skip to 21 through 23, and I'll let John take the lead on those middle school positions.
The line item 21, the elimination of the middle school general music teacher, that was a one-year position. Last year, when we had 2 resignations in a short period of time, a choir director and a general music teacher, the person that we hired to fill that position is certified in both of those areas. For 1 year, we needed to cover one section, but through scheduling, we were able to set it up so we don't really need that extra 10% position this year. The line items 22 and 23 are the result of some enrollment issues at the middle school. We have a smaller incoming class at the 6th grade level, which allowed us to reduce sections in the building and then reallocate staff to cover those sections at different grade levels. So.
So we've had a reduction in middle school science requirements? Or I mean, needs?
We have a reduction in the number of sections that we need for middle school science, yes.
The number of students
Based
coming
on
in.
students.
Right.
Sixth grade. We have a large 8th grade class leaving and a smaller 6th grade class
Okay.
coming in. High school counselors, extended days, Dana?
Yep, so, as much as hard as the school counselors, the high school counselors work during the course of the school year and ensuring students get registered for that process there, the work actually continues well into the summer. And so, needing additional days, particularly with moving into the new course offerings that we're scheduled to have in place in the fall, as well as continuing to refine our scheduling process now that we've moved to a block schedule. It does require a pretty significant amount of time on their part to make sure that all of the schedules are set when students come back in the fall. So we're requesting an additional 5 days for them over the summer.
Line item 26 deals with our technology replacement cycle, and we are reallocating some of the school equipment budgets. And I think we talked about this before with finance. We have an $80,000 CD, and we're not renewing that, so that would help to offset the cost for technology upgrades. The social worker, we've talked a lot about, unless there's questions.
Yeah, Crystal, I got some questions on
Sure.
that one. I understand why the social worker is needed, but in my mind, it's a function of the county government. Now, they've mentioned part of the deal for having a social worker here on premises because the students, parents, and accessibility. It would seem to me that would work out for both of us if we could get the county to supply the social worker and then we supply a office for them to function on. I understand, I mean, a lot of high schools do, but the one lady mentioned that has it, I believe part of that would be is because Reedsburg's not the county seat and the offices that serve the county are at the county seat.
Well, I think because we are the county seat, we see higher needs here because we have families accessing multiple resources that are available. And, you know, this wouldn't be just a role that's exclusive to the Baraboo School District. It would really be strengthening the partnership and the collaboration that we already have in place. You know, they're overtaxed, the county is, and I think the social worker likely would not be housed at the high school. You know, as we heard somebody talk about tonight, we're seeing the mental health issues and the families in need when the kids are in elementary, and that's really where we want to intervene and address truancy issues, help families access other county resources, and hopefully prevent some of the issues that we see in the secondary schools because those families haven't received that assistance. So we feel it's critical. Somebody mentioned Dave Ament. He stopped in the office the other day and he says, I've been advocating for that position for 30 years, and I really think that position would have an impact ultimately on all of our students in the district, because teachers will attest that when you're struggling with dealing with a significant behavior issue in the classroom, that has an impact on all of the students in that classroom as well as the entire building. And I see people nodding their heads over there. So, you know, we feel this position is critical. It's not just accessing outside resources. It's really providing that early intervention so that has a positive impact on our school.
Just a point to add on to Carrie's. 2 points. One is there seems to be some categorical aid that covers the second year of this. And I seem to remember reading that Sauk County has an 88% overage in one of its discretionary funds. And as a newly elected representative to the Sauk County District 15 at tomorrow's meeting, I will propose that we look at using some of those funds to cover the partnership, Gary, that you're talking about.
Thank you, Peter. It just seemed to me that the bulk of the people that wanted this program, be it city, county, judicial are, if it's that really important, it'd be nice to help kick in the funds.
I'm anxious to do so.
And I think we certainly, and again, I would certainly appreciate all the advocacy that can occur on something like that, and I believe we should advocate for that, but we can't count on that. And again, I'm trying to pull up the document, but certainly what we're asking for is not unreasonable with what other school districts in the area are doing. We're actually probably lower than some of the other school districts in the area, and the needs are there, and so we have to be able to address those needs now, and hope that the advocacy will work. So I'm certainly in favor of that particular line item.
So this position would be housed at one of the elementary schools, but would obviously, this person would be traveling from school to school.
Right, they would probably serve, and I think we'd have to be very strategic about the number of families that they would support, the students, and so we would have to, with the help of teachers and principals, identify those families. And it would be a learning process the first year. I think we'd have to do a lot of collaboration with the county and DHS to make it work, but I do strongly believe it would have a significant impact across the district.
Where would your office be?
Well, we'd have to determine that, I'm not sure, unless Danny, you put thought into
No,
that.
that's yet to be determined.
Crystal, is there DPI, it's licensure involved in this?
Yes, that is.
Through DPI and also state.
And again, we won't know if there are qualified applicants unless the board gives us the go-ahead to post to see who might be interested in that position. Any other questions about the social worker? The board already acted on the reduced CESA 5 contract, and so we have eliminated the Student Achievement Consortium, which provides a discount rate for professional development offered through CESA 5. We believe that we have enough, built enough capacity within our district that when our teachers are being asked to facilitate some of that, that we have the experts within our district to do that. The food service classes, first of all, I want to acknowledge Kate and her family and others that are here to support the program tonight, because I think there's no doubt in anyone's mind that we value the work that you've done, and the community values it. I mean, it's a highly visible program. Kids have gone on to do wonderful things, and so it's not about the value of program. In fact, it's about part of it is about the big shoes to fill with Kate, because she has done such an outstanding job. And we wouldn't be here talking about this if she wasn't leaving the district. We would certainly not be talking about eliminating Kate's position. So when she provided notice of the retirement, we did post the position, so it has been posted since February. It was posted as a general-based position because people with more specialized certifications are even harder to find. And the last time our district had a vacancy in this area, we struggled with finding a qualified candidate, and as I recall, we had to post it several times. So we did meet with the FACE staff. We did brainstorm a little bit. We're still acting on some of those communications and ideas that people brought up. But I'd like Glenn and Lori to talk about how they've been monitoring the candidates and how they've been reaching out to those candidates to determine interest in the positions.
Sure. I've contacted 9 of the candidates, and 4 of them have expressed some interest in the position. We've looked really carefully at those 4, and we probably considered 2 of them with a certification that we could potentially interview if we get to that point. But you know, we have to go through a process with that. So you know, we are being really careful to make sure that not only do they have the right certification, but that there's you know, the necessary experience and whatnot that the candidates can bring to the table. We so we're open to any kind of possibilities to entertain that the board wants us to in terms of finding a candidate if that's the direction that we move. But we also have to recognize that it may be difficult to fill the position because it is 80%. And so, you know, we have to also understand that even though they've expressed some interest, they've also said, well, you know, it could depend on whether or not, you know, what their salary is and this and that. So we just want to be as thorough as we possibly can in looking at all of the candidates and making sure that we're also being, you know, extremely responsible about finding a highly qualified person to step into this role if that's the direction we move, because these are really big shoes to fill.
Well, and we would like to move forward with interview process and keep the position open, posted, because we may have another resignation in that department as well. And you know, we are still getting reference checks, and so, you know, it's a high turnover position. It's in demand. And Lori, maybe you can talk a little bit about what the other districts are experiencing right now that are.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, just speaking to our CISA 5 consultant, a lot of other high schools in our area are experiencing similar challenges in finding qualified candidates for that particular role. And as you heard some of our speakers talk tonight too, that some of our high schools around us have actually cut their entire programs, and we're not asking to cut our FACE program.
But they're cutting it because they can't find qualified people, or is it just because
Well,
of budgetary reasons?
That I don't know, Doug, but what was shared with me is that we have high schools around us that no longer support FACE classes.
I think part
And
of
have
it
struggled
is,
to find qualified
I think
candidates.
part of it is budgetary, part of it is staffing. You know, there are a number of positions at the high school level that are really difficult to fill. But, you know, we're working on it. It's still a process. We need some direction from the board. At some point, we have to make a decision because, you know, it's not fair to the students who are enrolled in the classes if we don't move forward with it.
Sure.
We have reached out to some businesses, and we're still talking, you know, about some maybe different structures to deliver the program or support from them. I don't know what that looks like yet, but, you know, people have indicated some interest in discussing that.
So the
You are
position,
going to post this again, correct?
It is still posted.
It's posted, as I read it, until filled, although obviously we do have an obligation to students to be able to have a class for them to come into or not. And the discussions with area businesses might create a structure for us for the interim, for that period of time, when we do not have a full, around 80% instructor, but to offer programming for the students along the same lines. But the position description as it's written now, are you saying that it could actually cover, would attract applicants who might fill one or a different one or another position, FCE
Yeah, I
position?
mean, we could certainly keep the current posting up, and then, as Dawn Lever indicated, post one that's more specific to food service. But Glenn has reached out to the people who did apply to you know, determine interest in the position with more details.
Right.
But we could certainly put 2 postings up. I wouldn't want to take the one down because we are anticipating that there could possibly be a resignation in that department.
So
And-
we're leaving it open at this point anyway, so
Right.
obviously if we see a big pool of applicants that are qualified and we're continuing to look at this, that there may be other options that we can explore, but at this point we should probably move ahead with it as far as the way I see it, but then we're still looking at that.
The city has been very flexible with this. We were supposed to notify them by the end of April if we were not leasing the facility. There is an area of business that prefers to be low profile, but has helped with the funding of that lease. Part of that is due to the strong relationships that Kate has really developed in the community. And they'll work with us, so we have flexibility with the timelines for that.
Well, I guess I want to be the optimist here. When you have a unique program like this, and you have a unique individual that's run it for so long, and Kate was kind enough to invite me into her class one day, right as you were wrapping up cookies sales, and so I got to walk out of there with a couple of dozen leftovers. But when you have this unique opportunity, it provides a lot of challenges when there's a transition, and we've got a room filled with creative people here. We ought to be able to find a solution that bridges the gap, that figures out the long-term solution. We might have to have a short-term solution that gets us to a longer-term solution. Clearly, 2 rooms at the top of the Civic Center is not where we want to be or need to be. It's worked well for us, but that's because we've had the right person. I understand the trepidation and fear of having the wrong person in that situation. It could be a disaster. It could be a success. But that being said, we have to go with what we know. Ideally, we'd like to look at our facilities here. This board is considering facility planning for the future and the needs in this building for the future. We have a cafeteria that splits our lunches into 3 segments, and one of our classes right down the middle. That isn't work. With Open Campus gave us some relief on that. It doesn't work anymore because of behavior, so we've closed the campus at lunchtime. We need to add on to our lunchroom to properly handle that, so we can do it in 2 sessions instead of 3. When we do that, we can look at things like our face areas and food service and how can we adapt there, our co-curricular spaces, our other needs that we have. So I see a long-term solution in the future. I just am hoping that we can find a short-term solution to get us there.
I agree.
So I guess, to me, what I'd like us to do is to keep that posting open, to modify that posting in any form or fashion that gets us through a transition period, but then to also take this number off the spreadsheet for now. I realize that increases our deficit of what we've got a gap, and to the gentleman's point, it isn't an unknown budgetary situation we're in. I can tell you at the beginning of every year, the last 5 years I've been involved in, and probably the last 20 years that Mr. Vodak's been involved in, we always start off with this huge gap that we're handed at the beginning of the year, and we have to work to narrow it to a balanced budget, because we are going to walk in with a balanced budget next year. That's what we need to do. So I guess that would be my solution, is that we keep it open, we modify it in any form or fashion that provides us a short-term solution to get us to our long-term solution. Because I don't think anybody on the board, and I don't want to speak for my fellow board members, but I don't think anybody here wants to see us narrow our curriculum.
Well, and I don't think there's a sense of urgency that we initially thought we had with the lease. If the city's
Well,
willing
right.
to be flexible.
Because it's an
with
empty
this.
building,
Yeah.
and we take up 2 rooms of an empty building.
So
So
we're willing
if,
to
for
be
some
flexible.
reason, we weren't part of it, it would just be an emptier building.
I just
I
want to.
wish Mr. Petty was here, because we could discuss.
Well, and it gives us more time to explore some options to continue. I don't want to modify the current posting, but we can certainly put up a new posting that's more specific to that position. And come back when we have more information to share with the board. on that.
Well, and one of the crazy ideas I had, which, was we just passed a referendum that is improving the safety and security of the middle school, which involves moving all of the offices up to the consumer education area and moving that consumer ed area back to the offices. If you're going to spend all that money remodeling and setting them up, maybe here's an opportunity to provide space or equipment or programming needs within one of our existing buildings that allows us to continue that.
We'll have to talk about that in a little more
Well,
detail.
I know.
If you want to modify that description so that we have a short-term solution, and so that we are focusing on the position requirements that we really want to see, can we also make that position description flexible in its requirements, that in fact perhaps the person would have to be for a year not K-12 certified, not to be more on a consultant basis. Can we increase our likelihood of finding a strong candidate?
We have to first seek the appropriate license, because if we don't hire someone that's licensed and the DPI issues a provisional or emergency, we have to demonstrate that we went after certified applicants, so.
But we've been doing that since
Right, but
February.
we're gonna keep this posting up, because again, I wanna reiterate, we may be looking to fill 2 positions, not 1. And so, I wanna keep this one up. You guys can start the interview process.
We already picked a date.
Okay, and we will, we'll put up a new posting that provides a few more details. And, you know, I think people seeking those jobs understand that, you know, that there's some flexibility with licensing with DPI, in terms of provisional, but, you know, we'll have to deal with that on an individual basis.
Just want to increase
Yep.
the likelihood of getting a strong candidate and one which may be interim.
I would like to both support Sean and Mo's comments. I don't think anybody on this board is considering cutting, eliminating, throwing out this fantastic program. We're just challenged with losing the best and trying to figure out ways in which we can bridge that gap. I like to use the word hiatus. You know, we're taking a little hiatus from what was to what will be. And in that period of time, we're all committed to finding the best solution for that period of time, but also to make a permanent home for what you and all of your colleagues have created. Because I too believe that we need to teach the whole child and teach them according to their gifts.
Crystal, would it be possible to explore colleges that have these programs?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and we were talking with MATC. Lori, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that, but I mean, we reached out to CISA 5 and MATC. We also reached out to some districts. I think Reedsburg's in the same spot right now where they're looking at having culinary arts, not this coming school year, but the following. The potential of busing their kids or sharing
Collaborating
staff or
somehow,
just
right.
collaborating with them somehow. So, you know, those are all options that we need to continue to put on the table.
For the sake of moving the budget discussion along, if we could come back to the items that the board wishes to either table or remove, but if we could just finish the list as we've got it in front of us and then come back.
Okay, thank you. We indicated that we're looking at moving one of our 4K classrooms from community site to West School, and I would ask Chris to maybe talk a little bit about the rationale for that.
Well, up above, when we talked about decreasing an overall K section and first grade section from across the district, I think the elementary principal team is thinking that we would take that kindergarten section from west, and then that would create a space there, an empty room that we could easily bring Deb Benson from Renewal Unlimited and her assistant Sharon Thomas into west, and that would save us $9,000 in not only the rental fee for the room, but I think there might even be some transportation costs too. I'm not real sure, Martha, if that's, I can't quantify it or put the numbers out there, but I think we probably would save a little bit of money transportation wise too.
The administrative assistant, Mary's leaving us at the end of the school year, and we did go through the interview process, and Ellen Weiland will be assuming that role effective July 1st. And so I did provide additional information to the board regarding hourly rate and benefits on that position. Molly has also been working with the other elementary principals and looking at ratio of educational assistants to students in our schools. And they've identified a specific number of hours in each of their buildings, so we're looking at some cost savings there. Again, we would wait for decisions until we knew about returning staff and try to address any of those reductions first through attrition. The middle school part-time custodian, want to talk about that, Martha, or Dan?
Yeah, and actually Dan's here, but Dan did present a time study to the BG&T committee a number of weeks ago. And one of the areas based on that time study was that we could use some help in the middle school. And we would look at just making it a school year position, so it wouldn't be year round, and it would only be a part-time position as well. So that's why we have it in there for 180 days and 5 hours a day.
Ed, did you have any further questions about that position?
Well, are you advertising for this position?
We would not advertise for it until later this summer. If we did it right now, we'd only have like 2 weeks at the end of the school year to bring that person in, and then they'd be gone all summer long. So we believe it's best to wait until the end of summer, or middle of the end of summer, to post for it and then bring that person on at the beginning of the school year.
But you don't think you need an extra person at the middle school during the summer? What, because of summer help, or why would that be?
I remember because we had the summer helpers.
So you wouldn't need that?
No. With the staff that we've had last year and the staff that, summer helpers we have this year, could be enough high school, college kids that would be able to get the building clean.
Plus, we're not turned on 3 walls on you.
Well, you may even potentially find someone from your summer.
Right.
Yep. You want to take the transportation contract?
Yeah, so through our new transportation contract with Covisan, we ran some numbers, and on the conservative end, it appears that we're going to save at least $60,000 for the general fund. There actually will be a savings to special ed as well, but because of maintenance of effort requirements, can't count those savings, which is unfortunate.
Can you explain maintenance of effort?
So, yeah.
One of those requirements
Can you explain it
that
shortly?
makes no sense.
I'll try to explain it shortly. What it comes down to, if you make the assumption that we have the same special ed students that we have this year going into next year, we have to spend at least the same amount of money. And if we don't, then we're hit by the DPI for not maintaining the effort to those students. So
Even if we find costs that.
and specifically, the last conference I went to says going out for bid for transportation cannot count as an exception maintenance of effort, which is very, very frustrating because we're trying to be fiscally responsible. But there will be savings there, but it'll need to be filled through something else.
So there's no balancing out for the 340,000 that overrun last year and stuff. So.
No. Knowing that though, we're having savings in our regular transportation cost, but the co-curricular costs are going up from our current contract. So we're funneling $10,000 of those savings into the athletic budget to help cover those increased costs. So a net savings of about $50,000 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last, the transfer to Fund 27 is to, again, address the increased special ed costs. So we're moving from Fund 10 to Fund 27, special ed. And then Infinite Campus license and support will be reduced this year.
I can speak to that. Some of it is actually the new way that the contract is set up. They actually are reducing some of the costs. But also there's a portion of Infinite Campus that is related specifically to the food service program. And since the food service program financially is doing so well, we're asking Mary to pick up the cost that's specifically related to
the food service program. So that's why we're gonna move it out of Fund 10 and into Fund 50.
So that brings us to the subtotals at the bottom. You can see that we've reallocated or reduced accounts just over $1 million. We've identified about 500,000 in needs, and so that's a savings of about 500,000. I would ask that the board make a motion to approve the budget items as presented, with the exception of tabling the food service item, and then perhaps take the social worker item separately as a separate motion.
Well, I guess I would ask of the board, and I think based on the discussion, that it certainly would be, I don't think against anybody's wishes, if we, in acting on the budget adjustment recommendations, if we table line number 29, which is the food service changes, and I would ask then of the board, if the board is comfortable with then approving the rest of the budget recommendations as a whole, or if there is anybody that would prefer that the line 27 social worker be taken out. I'd rather have somebody have an opportunity to vote specifically for that than vote against everything based upon that.
Some of these are just accounting, but there's a couple that require postings. A few of these have already been approved by the board, but it helps us move forward in the budget process. These are just specific recommendations. We're not asking the board to approve the budget at this time.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the budget with the exception of tabling item number 29, which is the food service, for future discussion, and to pull out the social workers separately for a separate vote.
I'll second that.
Line 27.
Any further discussion?
And those are budget adjustments, not approving the budget.
Well, do not you wish this were our entire budget, Sean? Maybe not, because we'd have a deficit to make up. Any further discussion?
Once it gets on this list, I mean, it's just not.
No, it's not set in stone. It's just, this allows us to put it in the budget, start
making decisions,
start fine tuning it and bringing the numbers closer and closer.
Gotcha.
Then
And this right now has the salaries at 1.46
CPI.
Yeah, across the district, it doesn't designate how that will be allocated, but at least it's a line item in there.
And I guess I would also remind you, it has a 0% insurance increase.
I understand
Total
that.
cost 0%.
we're working on that.
Yes.
Okay, motion by Meering. Gary, were you the second?
Yes, I was.
Seconded by Cummings to approve the budget adjustment recommendations, tabling line item number 29, removing line item 27 for a second special vote. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Vote Mr. Mortimer's opposition. And then that brings us to line 27, which is the social worker aspect of the budget adjustment recommendations. We'll entertain a motion for that vote.
I move to approve that.
Second.
Motion by Meering, seconded by Vedro. Any further discussion on the social worker position? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
Noting Mr. Mortimer and Mr. Cummings' opposition, is that correct? Anybody else?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the work that went into the recommendations. Obviously, we still have some work to do. I say we loosely.
I'm hoping that Coguson and their planning of their routes will see some further cost savings for us.
Sounds good to me. Up next, we have Mr. Meering on the National School Board Association Convention Report, which I know it was earlier in the week. Doug indicated it would be brief.
Well, I was going to give you the Reader's Digest version of it, but I'll give you the Reader's Digest version of the Reader's Digest version of this. And basically, a large portion of this is going to be handled by the policy committee and brought back. Yeah, too bad. Sean, if you want to, you can come and attend. But I will give a much fuller talk. But basically, many sessions, but the things that are very important to the board is I went to a session that dealt with the 8 characteristics of effective school boards, which we will be dealing with in policy, not only with the evaluation policy of the school board, but we're going to take a look at some of other policies so that they're in alignment with that. The only other thing I want to bring back from that is one of the things they talked about, which we will be talking forward in other groups, but STEM and integration throughout all of the programs. So those are the important things that we want to look at. One of the things that I'd also like to bring up as far as board development and our own professional development is that probably it would be a good idea at a future board meeting, thank goodness it's not tonight, but bringing in a consultant through the Wisconsin Association of School Boards, and then one good person to talk to would be like Bob Butler, to come and talk about some of our own professional development and looking at our roles as we go forward in this discussion. With that, that's my Reader's Digest version of the National School Board Convention.
Well, thank you. Thanks for your attendance. Thanks for sharing with us, and look forward to having further discussion in regards to board professional development in the future. Brings us to the portion of the agenda entitled Continuous School Improvement. Lori, you have been waiting for some time. Share with us the WKC.
Burning a hole in the screen.
Yeah, I know. We have to get involved. All right, and you do have the hard copy in front of you, and this is the same one that I sent over the weekend that's revised. Just real quick, what is the WKC assessment? What are we really looking at when we're looking at results tonight? Keep in mind that this is an annual snapshot of student performance, and that we're just looking at performance in grades 3 through 8 and at 10th grade in the areas of reading, math, across those grade levels, and then the state statute requires us to also assess social studies, science, and language arts at 4th, 8th, and 10th grade. This assessment, too, as a reminder, is given early in the school year during October and November, so we're looking at results 5 months later. We had a change in the way the results are reported a couple years ago, that the benchmarks changed on the assessment to be in alignment with the National Assessment of Educational Progress, or otherwise known as the NAEP test. So when we look at the proficiency scores for reading and math, you'll note that they're a lot lower compared to what you'll see for language arts, science, or social studies, because they adjusted that benchmark a couple years ago. And that was in preparation for Race to the Top, No Child Left Behind reporting, and also the preparation for the new Common Core state standards and benchmarks with the Smarter Balanced Assessment. We use this particular assessment data to monitor trends and effectiveness over time of our curriculum instruction. So as we look from year to year, if we see a trend, we know that that's where we need to focus our efforts. This will be the last year that the WKC is used for reading and math only. So we still will be giving the WKC next school year in science and social studies in grades 4, 8, 10. So that's still part of the state statute. Next year, this assessment then will be replacing for reading and math, it will be replaced by Smarter Balanced at our grades 3 through 8, and at the high school level by the ACT, Aspire, and ACT, which we're happy about because we feel that these assessments are better measures of our curriculum and instruction. So this represents the graph that you have in front of you, and I just want to explain it a little bit. We're looking at the different components of the assessments, and again, you'll see at 4th, 8th, and 10th grade, language, arts, science, and social studies represented. Otherwise, at the other grade levels, you see reading and math. We're just looking at this particular information for students who are considered full academic year, which means they've been in our district for a full year for instruction. It doesn't include all the students that are assessed, okay? So what we see here with the green, you're seeing at each grade level, the green shows that our students performed above the state average, so you see the state results underneath. And you'll see that I highlighted in colors some areas of concern, which always, for our district in the past few years as a trend, has fallen in that reading area. The one thing though, I don't know if you remember a whole year ago, that we had two more areas up here that were also red and yellow. So what we're starting to see with our current 3rd graders and our 4th graders, that our reading and literacy curriculum is starting to take hold for our younger levels, along with the early intervention efforts that we are working on with our students. And we are seeing the students, as they move down this column, are gaining in proficiency. The same group of kids we're getting a little bit more each year, a little bit more proficient. So that is promising, although if you respond to this data the same way I do, it's not satisfying. We want to see better.
Lori, can you do us a
sure,
favor, even
sure.
though I know you've seen it in the past, just resend it to us, maybe in the next few days, what was last year's results?
Sure, I want to talk about that though.
Okay.
Part of the reason I had to give you a revised chart over the weekend is this is a little bit complicated. I had to
Sure.
talk to DPI about it. Noting our data that's reported in WiseDash, which is a new tool, as you may recall, looks different in there compared to what we've noted in past years through Turnleaf. So we've had 2 state data sources. We've always had to go in and dig into Wisconsin Turnleaf to pull out these numbers. And the way it was explained to me by DPI why there might be a discrepancy by a percentage or 2, in some cases 3 points,
Wow.
is because McGraw-Hill is the vendor for WKC. Their Turnleaf product only takes numbers and whole numbers. They don't take percentages, points or the hundredth place.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the data gets translated now into WiseDash, everything gets massaged, cleaned up, and it can have an impact.
Sure.
So that was the response I got from DPI. It was a little discouraging for me because I said I need to be able to explain that to my stakeholders because for years we've been reporting Turnleaf, which is the only data source we've had. And now when you look in WiseDash, things look a little different. What they said is please share WiseDash moving forward because that's the cleanest, most accurate data.
Which will be good going forward, but now whenever we get into these transitions, it all gets very muddy.
Well, and we're going to have a new assessments next year too, so
That'll get even muddier.
It'll even be more muddy, yes.
Yes, okay.
So that's a little frustrating. Crystal and I talked. We're like, there's not a lot of remorse with the WKC leaving at this point.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, questions.
But we also have other data that we rack and stack
Right.
against this to
Absolutely.
show where we may be actually improving more so, or whether there may be other areas to look at for greater improvement.
Right.
So this is not, this
Right,
may
and I'm
be
gonna-
static, but we're not.
Right. I'm actually going to talk a little bit about that.
Thank you.
So I do want to highlight, I like the way the Wisconsin State Journal reports out results around the WKC, and they look at the overall percentage of proficiency. And so for us as a district, overall 56.4% of our Baraboo students scored proficient or advanced in math compared to the 48.6% of the state. Math is definitely our strong area on this particular assessment. And in reading, 37.3% of our students scored proficient or advanced compared to the state of 36.6%. Okay.
Say, Lori,
Yep, go ahead, Ed.
I'm confused. You said 3rd and 4th just a minute ago, that they're doing good in reading?
3rd and 4th grades
Grade. Yeah, 3rd grade.
are
fourth.
doing better than last year's 3rd and 4th graders.
Okay. Why, is there a reason that doesn't carry over into 5th, 6th, and 7th grade?
Yeah, actually-
Or should the reading specialists be spending more time?
Actually, what
there?
I don't know if I was clear, we are seeing gains in those other grade levels of 5th, 6th, and 7th, but they're still performing below the state average.
We were further below.
We were further below last year, yeah, with those same students.
Same students, yeah.
So I know you'd like to see data over time. And so this is coming from that WiseDash tool. So this is our most accurate data. And when you're looking at these results, this includes all of our students. Okay, so not just the full academic year. And what you're seeing here over time, they have taken the past 5 years worth of data and they've applied it to those new NAEP proficiency scores. And what we'd like to see is the blue and the purple, which is advanced and proficient, increase. We should see an alligator mouth, which we're all familiar with. And what you're seeing right here is we're kind of stagnant. And at first, your first reaction might be, well, that's really disappointing. But you got to keep in mind the context of this data. We started this district strategic plan, right, about here. And here's where we are right now. So I can only speak of the window that I've been here, but this first year, what we did with our literacy curriculum, remembering we're looking at the effectiveness of curriculum over time, this year we spent all of our year identifying the Common Core state standards that we're going to address with our literacy curriculum. So then in this year, which was just last school year, was the first year we started to implement those standards or those essential learning targets. And the work that we did in year one was assessed in the fall of this school year. So this is really only looking at 1 year's worth of work underneath our strategic plan that's aimed at improving this data. Keep in mind the context too with increased poverty, which is directly measured with attainment, that's what we're just looking at, and the fluidity of our teachers. Because we have a lot of new staff that are providing this instruction that need that support. So there's an optimistic view to look at this, that we're not decreasing with our achievement.
We've also looked at variables that impact certain grade levels, like parochial students transitioning into the middle school. And when Lori references full academic year, I'm not sure everybody on the board understands what that means, but they have to have been in our district a full school year to be counted in the one numbers. But now Lori is demonstrating this is the results from all of our kids that were tested.
Can we clean this up and remove those that are not our full academic year? Do we have that capacity?
Yeah.
So that we can say,
Yep.
I would assume the results would be better. I'm not sure
Right.
significantly better
Right.
yet at this point, as early on as we are.
Right.
But those young people who have not spent a full academic year with us, one would suspect would be pulling down those scores some
Sometimes.
degree.
Sometimes it's a great help.
Yeah, sometimes sometimes they're.
Lori,
go ahead, Ed, yep.
Now, isn't Common Core supposed to be more stringent than No Child Left Behind and everything?
More rigorous than our
Right.
Wisconsin Model Academic Standards.
Okay, then, if that's the case, are these scores gonna go down?
No,
After
that's
you
a
get
good question, Ed. You know, I was meeting with some of my peers on Friday, and some of your questions and perhaps deflated mood about these results are shared across our region. Because a lot of our peers are having the same results, and I don't know until we take our assessment next year, which is a different assessment. But keep in mind that the WKC was designed to directly measure the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards. And for the past 2-3 years, every district has been working on implementing the Common Core state standards, which are way rigorous than our Wisconsin Model Academic Standards, and will not be directly measured with this particular assessment. I mean, there's something to be said about the measurement tool itself, and we believe that the Smarter Balanced measurement tool is going to be a much better assessment tool to directly measure the curriculum instruction that we're doing with the students.
Will the Smarter Balance tool be one that continues to challenge the student as he or she gets right answers, to take them to the next level,
I think
or
that
is it more?
it's not a computer adaptive assessment. It's called computer enhanced because each of the grade level spans of the new Smarter Balanced assessment does have a floor and a ceiling to measure a grade level. So there is a little bouncing back and forth, but it's like our highest achievers will hit the ceiling of the test. Yeah. Good questions. You guys are really savvy about assessment. And then our math results have a better trend line than our reading results. So you can see that you're starting to get a little bit of an alligator mouth there. And what we like to see is have less of our kids score in the basic and definitely less in the minimal. Okay. So again, this assessment is looking at our curriculum instruction effectiveness. So if we just look at this one data point, kind of getting what you were saying before, Peter, we see continued growth in math. We definitely have gains in reading and language arts, but they're happening at a slower rate. And overall, we're performing strong in science and social studies. I was remiss, I should point out that I know you guys like to know how we do compared to our local peers. And at the high school in 10th grade, we have the highest postings for both reading and math. That's something to celebrate, right? No, reading and math. And then our recent math data, which, again, the WKC was 5 months ago. Our recent data that we just have from a little bit over a month ago shows that our rate of growth is 2 times faster than the norming group for the nation in reading and math. And we are performing currently today higher. So, one of the things to keep in mind is this WKC data is one data point for what comes out in the fall, our school and district accountability report cards. Those report cards also take into account the amount of growth we make with each and every one of our students. And last year, last fall, or this school year, we were the only district in this area that exceeded expectations, primarily because of the amount of growth that we make with our students. So when you're looking at this data, it's just strictly attainment. Did students meet a certain benchmark or not? It doesn't take into account how much we've grown every single one of students from fall to spring.
Lori, that map growth, the rate of growth is 2 times the pace of the norm group. You said that's a national norm group?
Yeah.
Is that something that you can identify as a Wisconsin? Can you norm group?
We can't, but I think that's coming soon because of the Value Added Research Center at UW-Madison. They're starting to do some work with just Wisconsin map data to see how much value added each of our school districts provide to students through that one particular assessment. But historically, they've just been working with the WKCE.
But these are new studies, so sometimes some of this data that might come through might be misconstrued very easily too.
With our reading and language arts being so critical at that early age, the early intervention is working, or is demonstrating that it's working. Is there something that we can do to have an immediate impact on the middle, that 5, 6, 7 range?
Right. I feel like we are, and I'll let John speak if you want, because I know he's just chomping at the bit. I'm holding him back. But I feel like we are doing all those things. I mean, that's something we're very concerned about. We've been working for the past couple years to create a culture of literacy at the middle school, likewise at the high school. I think we're doing the right things and having all of our kids take a double dose of English language arts every day. And what we do with response to intervention is critical to close the gaps, but whenever students get behind their peers at any grade level, so let's say it's at kindergarten, it will take 5 to 7 years to close that gap for kids with a strong curriculum, with good interventions. So I feel like we are doing the right work, but it's not going to be instant, and that's, I know you're like me, I want this right now, but it's going to take time.
But what the numbers tell you is you have to develop a sense of urgency around that group of students so that we can meet their needs. And when we look at our value-added growth, that's something that we've received a lot of recognition for over the last couple of years, because the work that we're doing in terms of closing those gaps has been pretty phenomenal.
And that recognition was in reading at the middle school, that value-added. So we have some of the best value-added data in the state for reading at the middle school level. You just don't see that when you look at this, because that doesn't show any value added in that particular chart.
Well, we had a talk, I thought, about a year ago on our MAP assessments. Have we had that? Have we had that reassessment so we can see whether we're getting alligator mouths or?
We're coming up on the.
I like the alligator
yes.
mouth.
I love the alligator mouths. We're coming up on that here. The last week of April is when we start our spring assessment. So.
And you're going to have a report to the board.
Yeah, it'll be at the end of May.
Okay.
Or early June.
That'll be good.
Yeah, make sure you see the alligator.
One alligator, all alligator.
I'm gonna come up with a new term.
No, keep that.
Just real quick then, this is my last slide. Next steps is obviously we're going to continue to analyze results in relation to all of our continuous improvement efforts. We want to make sure we're doing the right work. We want to compare the results to the other data points from our other assessments, because this is just one piece. So it would be dangerous to make too much decision making on this one particular data point. And then we want to use the conclusions to set our goals as we move into next school year to guide our actions for the 2014-15 school year. We just did review the data at our K-12 District Curriculum Council, and our curriculum leaders have set some goals in mind too for next year in their roles to start going back and looking, okay, now as we're entering in the era of smarter balance, let's make sure that we're all good to go with all our ELTs. Do we want to tweak? Do we want to ramp up even more? And it is always about the measurement tool too, so we're having our students begin to practice with our new assessments. We have the capacity to have the kids take a crack at the Smarter Balance assessments right now online, and we're starting to do that in all of our schools, along with the ACT Aspire. So the more that we can get our students exposed to a different look of assessment so that they feel comfortable, the better. So next year we'll have a whole new set of data points that we're going to have to try to determine what it means and continue moving forward. But I don't want to be remiss in pointing out that, I think it can be deflating for our teachers who work so hard every day to get results, and they know they're getting results from their everyday observations, to have it all summed up with these, you know, 1 point or 1 set of data points that doesn't tell the whole story of what we do as a school district for kids. So the teachers need to be commended for the work that they're doing.
Well, along those lines, can you talk to the small trend that you and I talked about? We look at these numbers that are below the state results, and yet we saw growth in those numbers, even though they're still below. But most of the people in our conference saw actually a decline.
Yes, that's correct.
It was almost a disturbing trend as to why almost every school in the conference went down.
Right, in different grade levels, yeah.
And what-
You know, I don't know if any of you looked at the State Journal, because they always, you know, that's one of my favorite pastimes, formerly being from the Dane County area, is to look and see how the Dane County schools stack up. And you know, that's a very political thing in Dane County. And I put a lot of value in how those respectable districts are doing, because I want to be just as great as they are, if not better. And noted in the reading scores that not a single district has a strength in reading. Everybody's all over the board. You know, if you look at math, Wanakee got a lot of accolades because they had the highest math scores across the area. And that's very consistent who, you know, if it was a race, who's 1, 2, 3, just with that attainment. But there's no clear story with reading. We talked about that at my meeting on Friday, and everybody's like, you know, we all collaborate. You know, all these districts around us, we all talk about what's best practice around reading and writing, and we share strategies. And there's a lot of conversation. Are we doing the right work? I mean, we feel like we're doing the right things here with reading and writing. And the sentiment around the table was, we really need to see what Smarter Balance brings, because we're not confident in this particular measurement tool to give us the kind of results that we've been striving for. So, yeah, we're not unique. And I'm happy that we've sustained our progress and increased a little bit with reading, but a lot of our peers sure have seen decreases, so we'd like to see better.
When we compare same students year after year in those arenas, we watch the alligator growth. I mean, that to me is as clean and clear a definition that we're doing the right things, targeting correctly to increase that growth, and that's sustainable over time.
Right.
And when you throw everything together, it gets very, very played down. But I think what you've provided to us in those measurements of growth are really critical.
I think it's important to remember too that these are numbers on a paper, but they represent real kids, and they tell us that there's real kids out there that have needs, and our responsibility is to meet those needs.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Brings us to the portion of the agenda under personnel recommendations, the first of which are the approval of resignations. Did all of the board receive an additional resignation, which would be number 4, for Jesse Wells?
Yes.
He sent a resignation after the board agenda went out, and he's accepted a teaching position in China.
Yes.
Move to accept the slate of resignations.
But he would like to come back in a couple of years.
We can come back now. Second.
Okay, having a motion by Mr. McNevin, seconded by Mr. Deering to approve the resignations as presented, 1 through 4. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Note the approval of the resignations. Brings us to the approval of the new hires. One is the school psychologist, Megan Galdes, and the other school psychologist position, Aaliyah Bortz.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by McNevin, second by Jennings. Any discussion?
No, this 1-year term we had for Baker, no, she's done, correct?
That's correct.
All
The
right,
board
thank you.
already acted on that
All right, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion and the approval of the new hires approved. The approval of a long-term sub position at Children's Day Center, which I will let the rest of the board know. I am going to abstain because my daughter is a TA in that classroom. So I would entertain a motion for the approval.
I move
of
to
that
approve
long-term sub.
the long-term sub. Make portion.
Second.
Motion by Waring, seconded by McMillan. Any further discussion? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I will abstain. Brings us to the approval of the varsity assistant 8th grade head softball coaching position. Background was provided to you in your board packet. Entertaining motion for that position.
I move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mearing, seconded by Riley.
Where was that?
Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to new business. For the approval of disbursements, I will turn to Chair of the Financial Committee, Mr. McMillan.
And I guess if I could just make a note before Sean talks, on page 33 of the check register,
Oh, sorry.
you'll note check number 123674 to MSA Professional Services. That check was voided since this check register was sent out. It was mistakenly made out for the entire contract and it should have just been a portion. So the new check will be $2,570 for the roofs and $1,450 for the other summer maintenance projects. And those are all out of the non-referendum borrowing.
Make a motion, we pay the bills.
I'll second that.
Motion by Cummings, seconded by McNevin. Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Note Mr. Mortimer's opposition. Brings us to B, the approval of the 2014-2015 Belk contract agreements. A note to the rest of the board, again, I'm going to abstain when it comes to the vote. Would entertain a motion provided the background by Mr. Olson. I think everybody received that. Would thus entertain a motion to approve? Motion by Vedro, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Cummings. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. Who do I, Chris, you get it?
Mhm.
Okay. The enrollment language used to allow the provider up to 3 children to fully participate in the program even if they weren't registered with the school district.
That puts a real bind on the number of kids we have in that class. And what it's done is sometimes it's put too many students in the classroom. And so by taking this flexibility away, we still are working with our child care centers all the time on, especially this time of year and through the summer, on working to make sure they have families that they're working with already, again in the fall in 4K. So all this does is it just doesn't allow them or anyone to put non-registered 4K, to put students in that class that aren't registered through the district. And we already have open enrollment slots that the board will be acting upon later on this spring. So there's open enrollment that parents can go through. We're already working with the child care centers to, again, like I said, have them continue to work with the families they're already working with. So there really isn't a need to have this in there anymore.
Well, I probably disagree only because this is called the Jack McNevin rule. This language was specifically set up by somebody I'm married to because the situation that arose was my wife was on the board of the Children's Day Center, and our son has got an October birthday, so he was not going to enroll in the 4K program because we were keeping him back and starting him the next year. What that does, though, is that causes a problem where his entire grouping then goes over to the 4K programming, and then the day center actually had to provide a staffing member to watch him and him alone. And so that's why they came up with the solution of, well, wait a minute, you know, that doesn't make sense because the day center is providing that staff member as the aid within the 4K program while that's going on, and then the wraparound care goes back to the day center or whatever the institution is. So, I mean, I just don't want to put a day center or a day care provider in a critical situation where they've got to provide staffing for one student.
You bring up a really good point, and I've gone over potential changes with all the center directors. And the other piece that this follows, which connects with your example you shared, is that primarily throughout most of the state, they don't allow early entrance into 4K for good reason. And so the question then comes back, why would we allow other students to be within a 4K classroom if they have a birthday that's after September, which is usually the example.
Well,
of
well,
why
that's the
that was
example.
there.
And
Yeah.
it comes down to, you know, you've got a classroom situation where 99% of the kids are going to participate in the 4K program. In fact, that's the advantage of having it with our daycare providers or our community providers. The problem becomes, it becomes a very costly endeavor for that day center if they've got somebody that's left over that is not allowed to participate, to the point where it becomes a detriment to that day center. Now, maybe they haven't objected to it because they haven't come across it, but I guarantee when they come across it and they're required to find programming for that student, you're going to hear about it.
They've come across it, and it's been in different things that I've shared with them and different things we've talked about. And really, the other piece that I want to make sure I emphasize with this too is that when we're looking at budget cuts across the district and looking, you know, everywhere to save money, when we have 17, 18 students already in a classroom, and then when additional students can be folded in, when we talk about the achievement of all of our kids too, this doesn't help us in that respect as far as how all of our students are being prepared through 4K into kindergarten and down the line. So,
well, I'm not going to beat a dead horse here,
Yeah,
because I realize this is just going ad nauseum. The only thing I'm asking is that we make sure we're flexible. I'm not here to protect the interests of the day centers,
Yeah.
because that's not my role.
Yeah.
Clearly, this language is beneficial to the school district rather than the day centers. I'm just saying that I also understand how difficult it would be to find a replacement one if it becomes detrimental to the day center.
Well, I
Finding
think
another
Chris
community
is-
partner out there becomes
Excuse
very
me, I
difficult.
think Chris has done a good job, though, of collaborating with the daycare directors over the course of the last few months, looking at every detail and every change. And if one of them had a concern or an issue, they would have brought it forward. We want to make sure that we're consistent across the district. Chris and I ran into issues with some parents who, there was no space there anymore, and they were our enrolled students. So I support the changes that have been made, and I think we monitor it, we continue to be flexible and have open communication with the daycare providers. And if we find that it's an issue for them, you know, we'll revisit that when we revisit the contract.
and we're constantly working out things that are related to this issue all the time. So I'm really confident that, you know, as Dr. Ritzenthaler alluded to, that we can work out any bumps that come up from any of this. I think when you look at the potential contract changes as a whole, it's really meant to more clearly mark what's the responsibility and what's the role of our community partners and what's the role of the district staff members involved. And I think these changes do that. You know, and I feel confident that anything that does come up will work out just like we have over the course of this year too.
Any further questions? Having a motion and a second, motion by Vedro, seconded by Cummings, the approval of the 2014-2015 bill agreements. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I will abstain. Motion carried. Brings us to the approval of the lawn mowing service bid. This came from the previous earlier today meeting of the BG&T, and for that I will turn to Chair of BG&T, Mr. Cummings.
Earlier this evening, the Building Grounds Transportation met, reviewed bids for the lawn service. We have obtained 3 bids. It was the recommendation of the Buildings and Ground Committee to recommend that Green Dreams Landscaping be awarded a bid for the next 3 years as permitted. If there's any information or amount, does anybody need that? It averages around 30,000 a year.
Does that make, you're gonna make that as a motion? Mr.
I will
Cummings?
make that as a motion, yes, that's a little bit.
Motion by Mr. Cummings, seconded by Mr. Mortimer for the approval of the lawn mowing service bid as recommended in the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to the approval of the food and service prime vendor bid. That's not coming from a particular committee, but it is a recommendation that's coming forth from the administration and from the food service director, based upon the numbers that were provided to the board in your board packet. It was pretty self-explanatory. We're entertaining a motion for the approval of the food service prime vendor bid for Cisco as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vedro, seconded by Cummings. Any discussion?
I guess I just want to point out that the reason this is coming this year and it hasn't come before is it was a requirement by DPI that we had to actually go out and get 3 bids. We usually go through SPS, Shared Purchasing Solutions, which is a co-op, and that before has sufficed for the bidding process because they do all the bidding themselves. That no longer is the case, so that's why we had to go through this process this year.
What was the difference between 2 and 3?
Both shared purchasing solutions, who we've gone through before, the co-op, we actually have Cisco and Reinhardt are on their prime vendor list.
Okay.
And so the bid, the one bid was presented by Shared Purchasing Solutions with Cisco as the distributor, and then this third one was just Cisco flat out.
So we're removing the middle
Right.
person. Thank you for the clarification. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to the portion of the agenda. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.